One leftover issue from the last time that we were together is this, is that sexuality within Judaism is something that's very appropriate, highly appropriate, that we shine, as it were, upon people that take great affection and love in one another, which is why procreation is utterly appropriate within Judaism. In fact, to the extent that Judaism disparages somebody who would devote themselves utterly to God and not wed, not get married. So, but there is holy sexuality and there's unholy sexuality as well. Unholy sexuality is that which is done outside of the parameters of marriage. I mean, adultery would certainly be one facet of that, but even sexuality before marriage or outside of marriage in any way is also highly frowned upon. In the same manner, we also believe that there are times when sexuality is appropriate, times when it's inappropriate for sexuality. Of course, is utterly out of the question. And sexuality during the time when a woman is menstruating is inappropriate as well. And there are parameters for that. You can see the book for further details on it or discuss that with me individually. Divorce, moving to this subject matter, divorce is something which is not good, could never be good. In fact, the Talmud goes so far as to say even the holy altar itself weeps when a marriage falls apart. But Judaism recognizes that sometimes it is inevitable that a couple is not destined for each other, and where there is absolute unhappiness or inappropriate behavior that should not be tolerated under the rubric of marriage, divorce is something that is affected. Now, when a person is married, there have to be witnesses to the marriage, and there is, you remember, a ketubah that is signed that attests to the fact that a kosher marriage has taken place. Much in the same way, a Jewish divorce needs to be effected in order for a divorce to be effected. Without a Jewish divorce, a Jewish marriage does not end. That is to say, if there is a civil divorce and no religious divorce, the marriage is still, as far as Judaism is concerned, in effect. So, when a divorce takes place, a get, which is the opposite, as it were, of the ketubah, is given. Ketubah is the marriage contract. A get is the divorce contract. It needs to be attested to by two witnesses, just the same way that a marriage contract, ketubah, requires the attestation of two witnesses. Also requires, the Jewish divorce that is, requires a beit din in order to certify that it has taken place. A beit din are three judges that determine that it is appropriate that a Jewish divorce be granted. Jewish divorce is a change of status, just like a conversion is a change of status, which requires, likewise, a beit din. And one more word about divorce. If a Jewish divorce is not enacted when there has been a Jewish marriage, and they are still considered to be married, the two are connected to each other and may not wed anyone else. The only way that a separation can be effected is with a hafka'at kiddushin. Now, kiddushin means marriage in Judaism. Kiddushin means holiness, literally. Kiddushin, however, always refers to a Jewish marriage. So hafka'at kiddushin is when the couple, the two, did not want to continue in the marriage, were not able to continue the marriage, and yet there was no get that was given. Sometimes an annulment is possible, and that really essentially is a hafka'at kiddushin, an annulment. To the next subject, where one inevitably becomes ill. Judaism believes that life is precious, irreplaceable, and needs to be fought and sought after with everything at our disposal. A doctor's role in the world is a holy world, is a holy endeavor. We pray for somebody's welfare, and we believe that we need to do everything to effect their cure. When a person's death, however, is imminent, we may think otherwise. We may think in euthanasia. We may think mercy killing. Judaism does not truck with this. We do not believe that any kind of euthanasia is appropriate ever. for the simple reason that a person's life can be redeemed in a moment. In a single moment, they may realize the meaning of their life. And if we take away their life before they've had the opportunity of doing their own personal redemption, it is essentially an act of murder. There are parameters and variations on this, however, essentially that is it. Again, read the chapter. Finally, when somebody is ill, it is a mitzvah of the highest caliber to visit them. Bikur Cholim is what it's called in Hebrew. Visiting the sick is one of the greatest mitzvahs that anyone can ever do. And it is incumbent upon every Jew to visit the sick. It's not incumbent upon the relatives, not incumbent upon nurses and doctors and staff of the hospital. It's incumbent upon every Jew to visit the sick. Because according to the Talmud, when you visit the sick, you take away 1/60th of their illness or their pain. I can personally attest to that. When I visit the sick, I see how they sit straighter. I see how they remember that they are part of a community. And I see a flicker in their eye that they've not been forgotten. It's a powerful incentive to healing. When death does occur, when somebody dies, it is of course a very sad occasion. And Judaism has a lot to say about death. We believe that the dead need to be prepared by holy fellowship. There's a group in our synagogue, in our community, called the Chevra Kadisha. They're everywhere, where there are Jews, because when a person dies, their body needs to be prepared, needs to be carefully washed, put in a linen garment that all the Jewish dead are put in, white, and then they're put in a coffin that it can be only made of wood. We do not believe in incinerating bodies. We do not believe in prolonging the deterioration of a body either by embalming. We believe that the dead need to be buried as soon as possible, within a day or two, only longer if it's required by law, or only longer if the relatives cannot possibly reach the grave in time. We do also have a final prayer or confession. It's called the Vidui. It's important to pray with those who are in the process of dying. In this Vidui, this confession of faith, is an opportunity for the person to right themselves with God. Going back to the morning, when they have placed in the coffin, a shomer, somebody sits with them, saying psalms and prayers until the time of interment. The family, meanwhile, covers the mirrors in their homes. They put water outside of the door. I'll explain why in a moment. They sit usually on the floor on low stools as a sign of mourning as well. When they come back from the funeral, they wash their hands symbolically before entering into their house as an act of purification, before re-entering the stream of world, having been in contact with the dead. We believe that when the funeral service is done and the interment is completed, that the people who bury the dead, literally bury the dead, put earth into the grave, reciting Kaddish, going to the home, sitting Shiva. Shiva is actually Sheva, means 7 days of mourning. From the time of the interment, we count 7 days when they sit and they mourn. We join them in the house, we feed them, we pray with them, and then at the end of the 7th day, they get up, they walk around. But a mourner still has 30 days of intense mourning when they still don't watch television, they still don't go out to eat, they still don't watch movies. But they go out to work, they do as most people will in order to get their necessities done. And then there's an 11-month period, just shy of a year, where they come to synagogue every day and they mourn and they say prayers throughout this time. So there are several stages of mourning. The final stage of mourning is called Yahrzeit. Yar means year, Zeit means time. Every year on the Jewish anniversary, the Hebrew data anniversary of the death, they say Kaddish, and sometimes they visit the grave, and they say prayers there.